Hey, what's going on you guys, and welcome to Gator Inspection, the show where I game, and you watch me explain. Today's game up for inspection will be Sonic Team Racing, a game which just so happens to be the most recent Sonic racing game, as well as being the most recent Sonic game in general. Like most Sonic games, Team Sonic Racing came out with most fans' thoughts on the game being, dang, maybe next time. Now, that's not to say the game is bad. Well, that's not true at all, but we'll get to that. Team Sonic Racing was made by the studio behind the two Sega All-Stars racing games, which is weird that Sega decided to have them make just a Sonic racing game, instead of it being another crossover. But much like how the game is stinky, we'll get to this game being weird eventually. Will this game reinvigorate the Sonic racing series, and be a Sonic game that is actually good? Well, I kind of already said that it was bad, so let me present to you all the things that make this game an absolute train wreck. Or in this case, I guess it'd be a car wreck. So buckle your seatbelts, and get ready for this green light ride. Alright, so I have no idea where to start with this inspection, because just about everything in this game is made as incompetently as possible. Like, there is very little I won't have to describe in the most specific of detail. Which means, I could start with what the game is. Yeah, that'll work. This is a racing game where you race in a car. Which, if you count the Sega All-Stars racing games as Sega racing games and not Sonic ones, this is the first Sonic kart racing game since Sonic Drift 2 on the Game Gear. Which on one end is very surprising, and on the other, kinda disappointing. For a while during the GameCube and all the way up to the Xbox 360 era, all of Sonic's racing outings weren't kart related at all, and instead were skateboard/snowboard/hovering board games via the Sonic Rider series. Those games were pretty cool and different when compared to the kart racing juggernaut Mario Kart. Which was cool that Sonic was able to stand out in the most Sonic way possible, with a sick hoverboard. But the sequels to Sonic Riders were not very good from what I've heard, as I've never played them, but I can definitely say that they didn't sell well. So that series stopped after the third installment, which used the Xbox Kinect as the controller. With that bit of information, you can figure out the reason it didn't sell well quite easily. So for the longest time, instead of there being Sonic racing games, there were Sonic and Sega racing games made by Sumo Digital, with both of the games being made under that series being relatively good in their own ways. But for some reason, the third Sega racing game the studio made was a solely Sonic one instead of a huge crossover, which when announced was revealed to be a new Sonic racing game, obviously. But instead of revealing the whole title, they instead just revealed the letter R from the logo, which would have implied that it has something to do with the first 3D Sonic racing game, Sonic R, which had most of the characters run as opposed to being in real cars. This reveal made a lot of people think that it might have been like a new Sonic R or something, but at the same time actually not, because the trailer also showed Sonic Car. So a lot of people were justifiably confused about why they made the R in the title the only thing visible. A few months later, they properly revealed the game, and surprise surprise, the game has nothing to do with Sonic R with the exception for a few remixes here and there. Which means, we were getting a Sumo Digital Sonic racing game without the cast of Sega characters, tracks, etc, etc. So, was there anything gained from there being no other Sega properties besides Sonic? No, not really. Did they add a ton of Sonic-related stuff to make the game feel like it wasn't just a boneless version of the previous two Sega racers? Oh no, especially not that. Then why did they take out all the crossover-y bits? I have absolutely no idea. So now that I've given the answers to very reasonable questions, let's start talking about the gameplay. So think of Mario Kart, but it's Sonic. And then add Wisp skins to the game, some weird car customization, and some teamwork mechanics. Because this is Team Sonic Racing after all. So instead of having 12 individual racers all going for first place, you cooperate with your 3-man team by utilizing a ton of new mechanics unique to this game. First things first, Whoever on your team is in front of the other two will leave behind a trail that the rest of the team can use to gain a ton of speed. It could even be said that you gain a little too much speed from this mechanic. The longer you stay in the trail of your teammate, the stronger the slingshot boost you'll start to charge up. And as soon as you leave their trail, you'll perform a slingshot boost, which is pretty much just like a normal boost, not unlike a drift boost or boost pad boost. Which definitely adds to the you probably shouldn't be able to go this fast in a kart racer thing I said a few seconds ago. Which, to put into perspective, you and one of your other teammates could be in 12th and 11th place respectively, but if your other teammate is in first, you too could get to first place in a very, very short amount of time. You just have to wait like a few seconds. And if this sounds like it could be an issue, it's probably because it is. You can also throw an item you're holding to someone else on your team if you don't need it, and it even upgrades the item you send, which is not the worst thing in the world because most of the items are not using 80% of the time. But it's okay, I guess. All the items are pretty much just reskinned Mario items, which is honestly whatever, because if Nintendo already figured out the perfect set of items for a kart racer, don't try to reinvent the wheel, just follow the blueprint that the Mario Kart series has been fine-tuning since the SNES. Also, the items are all wisps, which makes me want to throw up. Besides collecting items during races, you also get to collect coins to increase your max speed, which is also something that Mario Kart does from time to time, but it's not so great here somehow. Much like in all the other Sonic games, when you get hit, you lose all your coins. So if someone hits you with an item, or you get dunked on by a wildly inaccurate hitbox, you can enjoy being back at base speed while everyone else takes your coins and leaves you in the dust. But don't you worry, because your buddies will be there to leave their trails behind to bring you right back to where you were like 3 seconds ago. Or even use a skim boost, which, after playing the game for 10 plus hours and beating the story mode, I still have no idea what a skim boost is. But the game always tells me that I do it, so I guess I'm doing it. I think a skim boost is when one of your teammates hit you from behind to give you a boost, but would also say sometimes that I did one while driving directly next to a member of my team, so I'm not really sure how to perform one on a whim, and I don't really care to learn how to do one either. There is one last feature that I haven't talked about, and it's perhaps the worst one out of the whole bunch: ultimate moves. Whenever you do literally anything in the game that benefits your team, you build up your ultimate move gauge, which when filled, gives you the ability to use a fast pass directly to first place. And it's not like when the bar fills up, you immediately use it. You get to use it whenever you want. So if you want to store an ultimate move the last turn of the final lap, you can do that, and almost certainly win for free no matter how far away you are from the lead. It's pretty much a win when you want to button, and when 3 other teams also have access to a when you want to win button, the end of a race can get really silly really quickly. Speaking of really silly, let's talk about the tracks, because you can't race if you don't have a place to race at. Half of this game's tracks are taken straight from the other Sumo Digital Sega racers, which is great if you've already played the other 2 games, because it's like getting a present on Christmas morning, but it's the same one you got last Christmas, but it's also missing a few screws. The returning stages are very out of place in comparison to the original tracks made for this game. I'd also like to mention that instead of having a ton of different tracks, this game has 7 track themes with 3 tracks per theme. So if all the returning tracks didn't make this game feel like regurgitated content, having 3 kinda samey tracks for each theme definitely does. Now, some of the tracks do at least have some unique things that are different between the other 2 tracks for a theme, but for a racing game with not that many tracks, kinda different is simply not enough. Out of the returning themes, we've got Seaside Hill, Casino Night, and Final Fortress. Huge shoutouts to Sonic Heroes for being a plague to the Sonic series. I'd also love to give a handshake to whoever decided to make the Final Fortress tracks locked behind beating story mode. It's like if you played a Sonic 2, but Chemical Plant Zone wasn't available until you beat the game. And then you've got the actual new themes for Team Sonic Racing being Planet Wisp, shoutouts to Sonic Colors for also being a plague to the Sonic series, Sandopolis, which is supposed to be from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but I only learned this fact after literally looking it up, so shoutouts to Sumo Digital for making it not so Sandopolis that I didn't even recognize the zone. I also may or may not have ever beaten Sonic 3, or Sonic and Knuckles, or Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but I swear, probably literally after I'm done recording this and junk, I will play it. Please don't hurt me. And then we've got Rooftop Run, which is great because I actually hate all the Sonic Unleashed stages except for Rooftop Run. This is a joke. I would have loved it if I didn't have to hear the Rooftop Run song again. And last but definitely least, we got Glacier Land, which, to my Sonic knowledge at the moment, is not from any other Sonic game. It's not even like there isn't a ice level in pretty much every Sonic game they could have potentially used. Like, they could have potentially used Ice Cap Zone, Ice Factory, Ice Cap from Sonic Adventure, Cool Edge, Frozen Factory, Ice Cap from Sonic Drift, Spaceport, or even Press Garden Zone. Man, it would have been so cool to see Press Garden in 3D. You wouldn't even need to think about how to milk a theme for 3 stages either, because you at least have 2 different stages based on the differences between Zone 1 and 2. But yeah, Glacier Land, which is just the Fire and Ice Galaxy from Mario Galaxy. But a racetrack. Shoutouts to Sonic Team for literally stealing from Mario Galaxy again. But don't worry, I won't have a 10-minute segment of this video about how unoriginal a Sonic game can be. All this about stinky stage themes isn't to say that the game can't have original stages like how Sonic Riders handle it, but I at least expect them to match how the rest of the tracks are. Like, let's get back to Sandopolis talk, because there is a track featuring King Boom Boo, a really random boss from Sonic Adventure 2, which is especially funny because even in Sonic Adventure 2, King Boom Boo is really out of place and weird. But besides that, King Boom Boo is a boss that is fought by Knuckles in the Pyramid area from Sonic Adventure 2. So you'd think that the King Boom Boo themed track in Sonic Team Racing would be that same pyramid area, right? Well, if I even brought up that question, you probably would have guessed that of course the track isn't like the Sonic Adventure 2 pyramid at all. Instead of a pyramid cave track, which would have literally made too much sense to be a track in a racing game, we instead get some random Sonic Lost World looking pyramid place. It's like this game tried to be as least fan servicey as possible. Like, it would have been so easy to call the King Boom Boo track in Sandopolis Pyramid Cave, but they just didn't. There are even 2 tracks that are spooky themed that could have easily been called Mystic Mansion or Hang Castle from Sonic Heroes. But no, one of the spooky stages actually takes place in Rooftop Run. You know, the stage that is insanely popular for specifically not having any spooky stuff in it. They really went out of their way to make the game as least Sonic-y as possible, which is great for a Sonic game. This is a joke, this game is so bland it hurts. It honestly feels like they were just making some random racing game and then hard pivoted into making a Sonic racing game, while still using the tracks they had already designed. And this would actually make a lot of sense, but it doesn't excuse the fact that this game is straight booty cheeks. On the topic of booty cheeks, you also get to customize your car in this game, which is pretty much the same as the kart building from the newer Mario Kart games, combined with the ability to change the colors, designs, and horn sound effects for some reason. The car parts portion of kart creation lets you change some parts of your kart to change its stats very, very slightly, with most of the things you can do to change your stats not really feeling too impactful unless you specifically try to make a car with silly stats. After you finish tweaking your stats, you get to pick the colors and textures for your car, which on one end can make your car look very generic in the way that it makes you wonder why you can even change your car colors in the first place, or you can create something that looks like it came straight from a PS1 game. Judging by those 2 things that I just said, you could probably take a guess as to which design choice I made for all of my Sonic mobiles. And last, but definitely least, you can change what your car horn sounds like. You know, that thing you never use because why would you? But with all these customization options, Do you have them all unlocked from the start, unlock them as you level up a character or something? Or maybe even have specific objectives for each unlock? No, you use a gacha machine, with the in-game currency you get from doing races. So to all you Knuckles mains out there, you better hope you're lucky enough to get the car parts you need. It also makes me wonder if this game was originally meant to be a free-to-play game, or maybe even a mobile game, because both of those seem kinda likely with how basic this game is. It definitely feels like the type of game to start off being really bare bones with the rest of the content added later, but that didn't happen, so we're left with Team Sonic Racing in base form. Alright, before we get into another segment of why this game sucks, let's talk about the music. So this game's soundtrack was hyped up by Sega even more than the actual game itself for some reason, and I don't really understand why. There are a lot of tracks in the game that are remixed or mashed up version of other Sonic songs, with a large handful of original music mixed in as well. Like, for example, there's one track that plays in one of the Glacierland stages called Ice Mountain, that is a remix of Cool Edge Day from Sonic Unleashed and Reach from the Stars from Sonic Colors. Which, if you told me those two songs were remixed together, I would then say, oh, that's neat. I love high quality rips. Because why are these two songs matched up? Like, I have really no idea. Like, it's a fine song and all, it's kinda catchy even. But I'm sure that there were definitely other things that they could have remixed that would have made a lot more sense. This song also leaves me with two very, very important thoughts. One, why wasn't that stage called Cool Edge? It uses Cool Edge music in the remixed part, and it's also an ice stage. I feel like it was kind of obvious. Also, whenever you use an ultimate move, it plays a short song that is relevant to the character you were playing as. So if you play as Sonic on this stage and use an ultimate move, it will stop playing the Ice Mountain version of Reach for the Stars and play the Sonic Ultimate move version of Reach for the Stars. A funny Reach for the Stars side effect to be sure. Once again, another shout out to Sonic Colors for being a plague to the franchise. The rest of Team Sonic's Racing's soundtrack is fine, I guess. None of the original music really stuck with me, along with the remixed music being kind of underwhelming compared to the original versions of each song. They probably should have gone with all the songs either being original, or all of the songs being remixed, instead of each song making me wonder whether or not it would break out into a song that I'm already familiar with. Because the whole soundtrack felt like I was listening to some previously mentioned high quality rips, waiting for the reference to start playing. Whew! What a soundtrack. Wait, I normally do the whew bit with like the story segment or something. Wait, I forgot about the story. Wait, I forgot about the story is also what I said after playing a decent amount of the game, and I kinda wish there wasn't a story honestly, because it was not only extremely boring, but it also made a lot of other Sonic games stories make no sense. And that's not even me being hyperbolic. So first things first, this Tanuki guy named Dodon Paw invites Sonic and friends to race. And for 90% of the game, that's the plot. We race, we chat, we then chat about how we don't trust Dodon Paw over and over again until Chapter 6. Why are we racing? I don't know, they explain it at the end of the game, just give it some time. There are 7 chapters, and I wish there were 7 less chapters, and if there are some additional secret chapters, I will not be playing them anytime soon. In Chapter 6, Dodon Paw gets kidnapped by Eggman, who everyone thought was in cahoots with Eggman, but considering how he got Tanuki napped by Eggman, he obviously isn't a bad guy after all. The reason Dodon Penronpa had Sonic and Co. race in the first place was to power this engine with ultimate team energy to do car stuff with. So Eggman catches wind of this and plans to take the engine for himself to make his cars betterer, I guess? I don't know. The final race did sort of surprise me with how Eggman made this weirdo small death egg robot that can drive a car, which also isn't a playable character because why would they let you play as a character that has a model car and everything? That just wouldn't make much sense. We then beat Eggman and his death egg robot whip, saved Dodon Paw, who actually wasn't a bad guy, which was honestly surprising, And all's well that ends well, right? Besides the incredibly intriguing plot, we also get a ton of interactions between Sonic characters that usually never interact in the main series, which for a lifelong Sonic fan was honestly kinda cool, I must admit. Like, we haven't got this much mainline Big the Cat lore in literally a decade. But these interactions sometimes left more questions than answers, like how Big apparently lost Froggy again and still hasn't found him. Poor guy. Or why on earth Vector is in Silver and Blaze's team, even though he's a member of Team Chaotix. The game says that Espio and Charmy just didn't show up, which is actually a good thing, and I'm glad that I instead get to play as Zavik. More like, Zav, why does Sega keep on using this character in his god-awful design? Not even forgetting the fact that, for some reason, Team Rose now consists of Amy, Big, and a bunch of Chow plus Oma Chow. What on earth happened to Cream? She literally even has two of her own Chow. Rose and Big have nothing to do with Chow. Cream is literally the Has-Pet Chow character, and she gets replaced by Oma Chow. What is this cruel joke? Then there's Team Eggman, which consists of Eggman, of course, Metal Sonic, and Zavik. Which is kind of funny, because Metal has a pretty good track record of specifically going against the Doctor's orders whenever he wants to, and Zavik also kinda does that, but he does it way lamer. They probably should have given Metal his own team, maybe including either Eggpawns, which much like the Degeth Racer, is also already in the game but unplayable, or go the creative route and have the rest of Metal's team consist of Badniks, which would have actually been kinda cool. And for Zavik, maybe throw in two of the other Deadly Six members, I don't know, it doesn't really matter which ones. And if they did throw in two more of them, it'd probably be like Zaz, since I think he actually has more appearance than Zavik does at this point, and maybe like either the big yellow one or I guess the girl one. I don't think anyone would want to play as the older depressed one. Now, this of course would leave Eggman without a team, but he could also just have Eggpawns, or they could even have Orbot and Cubot on his team. I think those two are big enough members of the Eggman crew at this point, and I think they definitely deserve to be playable in a side game. They have had more lines of dialogue in the more recent Sonic games than most of the other characters have, so I think it's about time for Cubot and Orbot to make their playable debut. I'd also like to mention that Sonic Riders literally introduced the Babylon Rogues to be in the Sonic Racing games, and they haven't appeared in any other Sonic Racing game since Riders, so shoutouts to literally not using the most obvious team they could have added. Speaking of two characters that compete together, Blaze and Silver are in this game together as a team, which implies that they know each other, even though the Blaze in this game is the alternate dimension Princess Blaze instead of future Blaze, so why is Silver still very familiar with this version of Blaze? I don't know. Zavik Ugg is also in this game like I mentioned before, which is funny because I'm pretty sure he either blew up or is like chilling at the Lost Hex or something. But in this game, he's taking orders from Eggman again, even though Eggman doesn't have the magic conch. Which is odd because the magic conch is Zavik's only personality trait. But that's enough Blue Hedgehog lore for now. It's time to discuss something that hasn't been needed to be talked about in any other Gator Inspection until now, with that something being glitches. This game is very shoddy to say the least. There have been more than a fair share of moments with me being flung upside down because I hit a ramp wrong, which on one hand is very funny, but on the other hand, these incidents usually would leave me in last place. I would also just sometimes clip out of bounds, which would also throw me into last place. Then there's the silliness that would occur during the extra modes, which may not be bugs, but they also shouldn't be in the game. These quirks would make it to where I wouldn't be able to gain points when doing the objective sometimes because I don't know why. I also never mentioned the extra modes during the gameplay or story sections because they are only playable in the story mode because multiplayer fun isn't good. And they are all the same drive to objective on track thing with not much different between each mode. Besides time trials, but they're just time trials, so whatever. There are also plenty of bugs that I haven't experienced quite yet, but I know they're out there, and I hope to get acquainted with them real soon, because I just know that they'll make me chuckle. Making me chuckle is my official score for this game, because there is nothing that it does that wasn't done better by some other kart racer that came before it, or after it. Side note, this game released the same week as Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which is honestly hilarious. Like, I feel really bad for the people that decided to pick up Team Sonic Racing over CTR Nitro Fueled, because one of the games are absolutely phenomenal, and the other is Team Sonic Racing. That also reminds me that the game was also released on the Nintendo Switch, which I know is probably even more funny than the PC version. Like, if the PC version is as bad as it is, I cannot even fathom what the Switch version is like. Maybe one day I'll give that a go if it ever goes on sales for $4 like it did on Steam, and if it doesn't, I'll buy it pre-owned so Sega does not get 20 of my dollar bills for boneless Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Team Sonic Racing would honestly probably beat Sonic Lost World as my least favorite Sonic game, but Team Sonic Racing is too funny for it to beat Lost World. Not to mention the game has a legit ranked mode. I'm not even joking, you can squad up with your friends in Team Sonic Racing ranked mode, but get put onto different teams because they forgot to program the normal game mechanics in the year 2019 feature. So no being on the same team as your two friends. Whoops. The game also never got a single updates besides a day one patch, lol. And that concludes my inspection of a very funny racing game featuring everyone's favorite blue guy. But if you want to exit the game on PC while also playing the game with a controller, you'll have to put down your controller and start using your mouse because they didn't program a way for you to exit out of the game with a controller.